Have you ruled out a pardon for yourself or any other additional members of the family?
For myself?
Yes, sir.
What would I pardon myself for?
That's what I'm asking.
No, I have no contemplation of pardoning myself for anything. I didn't do anything wrong.
Man, how times have changed. Joining me now, Josh Hammer, host of America on Trial, author of a book, Israel and Civilization, I should note. Josh, okay, Joe Biden's an evil communist piece of trash. Everyone has known this for quite some time. Something I'm very much enjoying is watching him burn down the Democrat Party's reputation on the way out the door. I can't get enough of it.
Jesse, I mean, how many matches do you have to just set aflame and just throw into a great big pool of gasoline on your way out the door? I mean, it's really just remarkable. I mean, from Friday's trolling tweet where he basically said, "Oh yeah, the Equal Rights Amendment is now the law of the land in the Constitution." The National Archives they were like, what? I mean, like that's not actually how you do this, Mr. President. I mean, from that to the flip flop on the Hunter Biden pardon to now this 15 minutes before J.D. Vance and Donald Trump put their hands on the Bible and took that oath of office, 15 minutes to issue a pardon for the Biden crime family members, 5-6 of them in total, going back to the year 2014. Jesse, what happened to the year 2014? Oh, yeah, that's when Hunter Biden took the Burisma contract. They're not even trying to hide it. Jesse, this is world historical scumbaggery. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you see in third world tin pot dictatorships. Oh, wait, that's actually what's happened in the past 3 years as well when it comes to the lawfare. Prosecuting one's political opponent, trying to put one's political opponent in jail. Yeah, world historical scumbaggery, tin pot dictatorship. So it's nothing new for Joe Biden. He has been a dirtbag his entire career. One of the biggest lies in all of American politics for the past half century is the notion that Joe Biden is a good man, hard scrabble, working class Joe. What a bunch of baloney. Joe Biden has been a scumbag ever since he first went to Washington, D.C. in 1974 after his first wife and daughter died in a car accident. He chose to not stay at home to console Hunter Biden and Beau Biden. He went straight to Washington, D.C. to be a senator. He was borking Bob Bork 14 years after that in the late 1980s with Ted Kennedy. He was the Robin to Ted Kennedy's Batman. He's been a rotting, stinking, fetid piece of crap for his entire career. And the real question that I have now, Jesse, is now that he's finally done here, he is in his senility, he is finally done. When is the next time that we are going to see or hear from Joe Biden? I suspect at this point, it might not be until his funeral, to which I say, thank God.
I don't disagree with really any of that, Josh. I do have a question, and I don't want to get heavy on what is a wonderful, hopeful day, but I can't help but think about it. When I saw the pardons, when I saw how brazen it all was, can we as a country, can we put Humpty Dumpty back together again? And if we can, how do we do that? Because what happens from here, what has to happen from here is one of two really, really bad options. Donald Trump can pass some executive orders, and of course, well, we're not going to prosecute Democrats, but all that does is convince Democrats they can behave like the demonic animals they are the next time they take power, or Democrats can start being arrested for the crimes they've committed, and that in and of itself continues the snowball downward. How do we put Humpty Dumpty back together again, or can we?
Jesse, I have to say, I agree with where you're coming from, and I've actually been a little skeptical, to be honest with you, when I hear a lot of people in this incoming administration or friends of the administration on the outside who are saying that they're vowing and saying the day of politicized justice ends today. Look, I am not calling to prosecute Democrats. Rather, here is what I am saying. What I am saying is that when you have an enemy, a domestic foe that is this brazen, that just tried to take a presidential election by trying to put the leading opponent into jail by bankrupting him, which, by the way, they're still doing. That's the Tish James case in New York State, the so-called corporate fraud case. That case hasn't gone anywhere. When you have these kind of tactics coming from an emboldened, hegemonic, Stalinist foe, Jesse, the only way out is through, as I've been saying for years and years here. And what that means when it comes to lawfare is, and I've been pretty open and blunt about saying this, you need short-term escalation in service of mid to long-term equilibrium. Put another way, If a bully is coming to you and is throwing these kind of punches, which Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, Fonnie Willis, they've all been doing this for years now. When a bully comes to you, you can't just squirm into the corner and say, "Oh, please, I'm okay now. Like don't punch me." No, you got to throw some punches back. You got to bloody up some noses. This is literally kindergarten, playground, bully, schoolyard logic. Again, I'm not saying that you prosecute someone for being a Democrat. I am saying that you try to pursue justice. So, for instance, 18 U.S. Code Section 241 is a criminal statute that criminalizes a conspiracy to deprive your fellow American citizens of their constitutional rights. Well, to me, that is exactly what Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, and Fonnie Willis have been doing for the past 3 years. I would start a special counsel investigation today, not tomorrow, today, to look into possible violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 241 for all of the various tentacles of the Democrat lawfare complex. It's basic game theory. The only way out is through short-term escalation in service of mid to long-term stability.
I like it. Josh, tell me about these pardons. Let's get into the nitty-gritty lawyer stuff, which is obviously your area. First and foremost, I'm going to ask the most basic, lame question, but everyone woke up and asked it. Can he even do this? Backdated pardons back to 2014. What does this mean? Does this mean Fauci's untouchable? The Bidens are untouchable? Is this the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card? Is that what just happened?
He probably can. I mean, it's uncharted waters. We have not had these kind of sweeping retrospective and prospective pardons. There are a couple things that come to mind here that are roughly kind of sort of similar in the nation's history, but nothing along these lines. I mean, he really set the ground for this with the Hunter Biden pardon, where he not only reversed himself after saying that he wouldn't do it approximately 100 different times there, but then he did it and he made it retrospective back to 2014, the same year that Burisma happened. The Anthony Fauci pardon, if I'm not mistaken, Jesse, I think he basically backdated that until the day that the United States started investing in the Wuhan Institute of Virology there with the NIH funding. Funny how that works as well there. So, again, people can legally challenge this. I would not be optimistic on a lawsuit that seeks to undo these pardons. So I think you have to operate under the assumption that they are indeed valid. If you're trying to go after Anthony Fauci in particular, what that means is that you have to be a little more creative at a state level when it comes to a local DA maybe in a red county in the Texas, Oklahoma panhandle, a place like that there. Look for some state level crimes, tort statutes, things like that there. I mean, you'll have to get a little more creative there. But unfortunately, Jesse, if I'm making a sober legal analytical prediction here, I think those pardons probably do stand.
Josh, let's switch gears here and talk about Donald Trump's foreign policy. We've already had some hostages, Americans returned as they should have been a very long time ago. He talked a bit about foreign policy today.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families. Thank you.
Josh, what does this mean for that whole miserable mess over there? Is it done?
No. The short answer is no, it's not done. This is a questionable deal, I think would be a very polite way of saying it. I've actually been pretty critical of the deal since it was announced, if I'm just being very honest, Jesse, with your audience here. I think it's not a particularly good deal for Israel, for the United States, or for all enemies of radical Islamic jihad, for the very simple reason that when you go about trading 33 hostages for 2 up to potentially even 3,000 of the most hardened, radicalized terrorists, people who are serving life prison sentences for blowing up children's school buses there. I mean, what do you naturally incentivize there? You incentivize more jihad and you incentivize more taking of hostages there. Part of this is Israel's own fault. They made a serious mistake, in my estimation, in the very, very early days of the war, when they announced that retrieval of the hostages was an equal war aim to defeating Hamas. From my perspective, that was a mistake. Obviously, you want the hostages to come home, but you can't lose sight of the fact that destroying Hamas, in my opinion, should have been really kind of the preeminent single goal of this particular war. So Israel kind of set themselves up for this to an extent there. I think Donald Trump really wanted this moment. He wanted this in his inauguration speech. He wanted kind of the day one Ronald Reagan, Tehran hostage crisis. He wanted the optics of hostages being freed there. But this is not going to end the conflict. In all likelihood, Hamas will violate this ceasefire one way or the other, and the IDF will probably go back into Gaza within the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks at the very most there. Ultimately, Jesse, as you know, none of the jihad in the Middle East, unfortunately, probably comes to an end until the head of the snake, the Iranian regime, is dealt with some way or another. I personally am hoping that Donald Trump very much reprises his policies on Iran from the first time around, where he had his maximum pressure campaign that almost brought the mullahs to the brink of bankruptcy. It was highly, highly effective foreign policy.
Yeah, no doubt. Josh, thank you, my brother, as always. Come back soon. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.